Hey guys, it's Ryan here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today we're doing another check-in video for the month of March. This one's a little bit late because I was out during the days that I would normally make this video. I was down in Houston visiting my family, and that's because technically this week is actually spring break, but my parents had spring break differently, or my mom did, since she works for a school. And well, I thought about it and I was like, I don't have class for the second half of the week. If I go down to visit while I'm on spring break, no one's going to be there, so there's no point in going. So I decided to go earlier, and that means that I ended up having to, skip some stuff on the channel that I would normally do. So that's why this is late. Otherwise, we did hit 5 years on YouTube on March 5th. I think that was right before COVID started, right as we were going off to spring break in 2020, I guess. And it was a very interesting time. It's not that exciting. I was just bored. I had recently gotten back into buying manga because I found a copy of My Hero Academia Volume 1 at my local Walmart for like $5 for whatever reason. And then I bought a copy of Aquaman, the New 52 run. And I think I also ended up getting a Comixology free trial. And I started reading Fathom and Witchblade. And I got into it, and then I decided to make a channel, and it kind of worked because there's basically nothing to do at that time while everyone was indoors, right? So I ended up starting the YouTube channel kind of right at the right moment. I started working on it, and then eventually got through, and now I am here. And it's been a pretty interesting journey in the sense that I've been doing a lot of things through the channel, or because of the channel, or kind of just because I've been getting more into the kind of fandom than I would have done otherwise, right? I went to a pre-screening. I went to different symphonic concerts. I've been to different cons of some different sorts, mostly the small ones that are local. I don't really think I would enjoy going to a big con, to be honest with you. And all of this stuff that I've been doing is stuff that is interesting and valuable and meaningful to me emotionally, socially, and stuff like that. But it's also thanks to this channel and developing and growing this thing, because I want to talk about interesting stuff, not just stuff that I read, right? And I mean, partially it's also because after COVID and the normalization of real life again, I've been wanting to go out and do more stuff, and I finally have the freedom to do so since I'm an adult. I have some money to an extent, and I have a car, right? So I can go do things that I would normally not done if I was still under the purview of my parents. But all of that combined has been beautiful and interesting and very cool, and it's all been thanks to this channel. So I just wanted to mention that because I think it's been cool. Usually I would have done a collection update at this point, but I thought about it, and I want to wait until my birthday this year instead. I want to wait until July, mostly because I am going to be moving to a different apartment in July, and I should have more time in the summer than I do right now to actually, go over all of my books and all of my stuff properly and in a detailed manner, in the future, right? And right now there's kind of stuff all over the place. I have stuff scattered in my closet. I have stuff all around me. I have stuff in my parents' house, and it's just kind of all over the place. And it's going to stay that way after I move, right? I'll have it at least between here and my parents' place. But it'll be a bit more condensed in some ways. It'll be a bit better organized. And I think that's going to be better for me in general. And I think it's just a better time to record that collection video. So I'll wait for a few months, but it will show up at some point this year. Hopefully in July, right? So that's it for the updates. Let's get into what I've been watching this month. It hasn't been much. To be honest with you, I watched Delicious in Dungeon with my roommate. It was on Netflix, and I had nothing better to do that day, and I didn't really feel like watching anything new, and I had been wanting to rewatch some episodes of Delicious in Dungeon since December, so I finally put it on, and it was pretty fun. I really enjoyed it. My roommate also enjoyed it as well, so it's been nice. However, our living room TV, for whatever reason, has lost connection to our Netflix accounts, both of ours, mine and his. And I think that's because they're technically our parents' accounts. So it just kind of sucks. It's one of those things where Netflix just doesn't really want to deal with the fact that people use it across, country. based on their own situations, right? So it is what it is. It's not that big a deal, but I'll probably end up watching it, finishing it off on my iPad or on my computer, but my roommate can't really do that, so I'll just have to watch it with him again later. But it's been fun. I really, really enjoyed The Listen Dungeon. It's the right amount of ridiculous and also serious and fun, and I just really, really enjoy it. Then I start watching Severance Season 2. Actually, I've been going through Severance Season 2, and it's not really been that great, to be honest with you. Especially the issue or the chapter that released 2 weeks ago. As of this time, it was just when Cobell went back to her hometown. That was the most boring episode. There was no point in it. I just really also don't like the Cobell character. I don't understand her. She doesn't make sense. The acting feels very bad in some ways, and it just doesn't seem enjoyable at all. And that episode was pretty rough. We have not watched the new episode, but we might do soon, and when that happens, I'll see what I think about it. But so far, Season 2 of Severance has been significantly worse than the first one, and I'm not really sure what the issue was. I guess it might have been the writer strikes, but I don't know, because that doesn't sound correct to me, but we'll see what happens. So, yeah. Then I watched Reacher Season 3. That has been much better than Severance, but it hasn't been as good as the first 2 seasons. In this case, Reacher feels very unsure of himself, if that makes sense. And that doesn't make sense to me, because that's not Reacher's character. Reacher is like this, hyper competent, kind of autistic kind of character, right? And he does still come off as autistic in this case, in this kind of season, but he doesn't come off as competent anymore. He comes off like he's having trouble understanding what's going on. And I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know what the problem is. I guess it is writing, especially because a lot of the dialogue seems really ridiculous and kind of poor. But the acting is still great. I still believe Reacher is possible as a real person, but I don't understand what Reacher is doing anymore. And that makes kind of not a lot of sense, right? It makes it harder to enjoy the series, if that makes sense. But Reacher seasons 1 and 2 are phenomenal, so I'll still give this one a chance. I also ended up watching a little bit of Game of Thrones because my dad finally caught up to the hype and has been watching some of it with my mom, and they were on season 4 into season 5, so it was pretty fun. It was some of the top tier stuff in the middle seasons of the show, right before it starts to kind of get worse, right? And it was great. I really, really enjoyed it. We were watching it in Spanish, and the translation was pretty good, actually. There's some issues with it in some ways because basically when they translate stuff, they don't know what's going to be important and what's not. So sometimes they translate stuff, and other times they keep it as the English word and then just kind of keep calling it that, regardless of whether or not that's what people would call it in Spanish. Mostly because localization for that sort of stuff is kind of difficult to do. Like Winterfell could be turned into something that sounds like it would in Spanish, but it would not be something that you would call a castle in Spanish, right? Or it would sound kind of off. And so they keep it as Winterfell. But then other things kind of get changed, even though they shouldn't, because they're also kind of like proper nouns. And so it doesn't really make too much sense when they choose to translate and when to not. At least not to me, right? But the actual character work and the voiceover is pretty good. I quite like it. They do a pretty good job at matching voices to the actors, right? Where it doesn't necessarily sound like the actor would in English, but if they were speaking Spanish, sometimes it's more about like the vibe. What does the vibe of this character give in terms of voice, right? And so sometimes it doesn't match, but usually it's pretty good. And I really did enjoy that. So yeah, that's it for the watch list. In terms of reading, I've been reading a lot of novels this month, just kind of offhandedly I ended up doing so. I read Reaper, Cradle number 10, actually, and this was great. I really, really enjoyed it. I started reading Cradle 11, but I was like, okay, I gotta wait. I also didn't realize that I hadn't reviewed Cradle 8 or 9 when I started reading this, and so I have to go back and not reread those, but make sure that I actually do the reviews for them, which means going through the books again in some fashion, right? Mostly skimming through them to make sure that I understand what's going on, which means that the Cradle review for Reaper is probably not going to come out until probably in May, right? So we'll see when that happens. But I do want to finish off the series by the end of this year, probably by the end of the second quarter of the year, right? So at the beginning of August, if all goes well. But Reaper was great. There's an interesting revelation here. The world has really expanded beyond just Cradle. It kind of goes into the cosmology of the Cradle universe, and it's pretty cool. I did really enjoy it, but there is a certain level of like loss that I feel in the story, in the sense that Linden and Yaren have basically reached the peak possible in Cradle, and so they have to move on from Cradle, right? But they're also still young and like barely adults, and so it feels like they still have a long way to go before they go and ascend, right? But the story is pushing them to do so quickly, and so I'm kind of curious about what that's going to mean for Linden and Yaren, like for the relationship, right? Like, obviously, I'm sure that they can grow old and have kids together, like while they live in like the Abaddon worlds or whatever, but it doesn't feel satisfying, if that makes sense. And so there is kind of that loss there, but also ultimately it's for the sake of the story, right? So it kind of makes sense, but I don't know how they're going to handle that, but I'm curious to see what happens. But overall, pretty good book. I really did enjoy it. I also read Advent. This is the Exalian Syndrome Book 1. This is by Seth Ring. So Seth Ring is a pretty cool author. I actually really enjoy some of the stuff that I've read by him, and this is a new type of lit RPG, game lit, cultivation type series. This one follows a character kind of similar to, what's the best kind of word to say here? I guess he's similar to Linden in the sense that he's not really all that special, but he is ready to develop as soon as he gets the kind of story given reason, right? And so he enrolls into a boot camp and he becomes a soldier. And this almost feels a little bit more like Halo at this point, where it's like a little bit like Halo and Venom combined, where you have this character that wants to fight against these evil, kind of alien, creature things. And also he has this like weird black goo that is helpful, maybe not. It's pretty cool. I actually really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. There was a little bit of a lag in the middle because this is one of those more like grindy kind of lit RPG cultivation type stories where the middle of the book is mostly just about training. And it's interesting to an extent, but at a certain point, it does kind of feel like it's lagging, right? But the ending was great. I'm very excited to read the second one. I actually ended up getting this through NetGalley. So I got a digital copy of this for free in exchange for a review, right? So that's how those websites work. And the review will come sometime in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully next week if I take my time to do so this week, but we'll see. Overall, pretty good. I really did enjoy this. It's available for purchase now, so I recommend you guys check it out. Then I read Heart of the Matter, which is book 2 in the Odyssey 1 series. It's a science fiction, a military sci-fi type story, and I love this series so much. Heart of the Matter is really not my favorite book. It's the second book in the series. It does a lot of setup, and then the third book, which is Homeworld, which I also read this month, kind of ramps up a bit too fast for my taste, right? So the first book is basically perfect. I love it. And then the second one kind of falls a little bit, but it like in terms of what it's doing for the story, it's ramping up, right? And then the third book is awesome. It's really, really enjoyable. But it kind of gets a bit too steep in the way that the story develops, right? It doesn't feel like a linear progression up. It almost feels kind of like it goes like this, and then it stalls, and then it like peaks up. And it's just not, looking back on it, it's just not that great in terms of writing, but this is also kind of like one of the earlier examples of Evan Curry's writing. And so it's understandable that this would happen. I'm sure that this doesn't really happen in his other series anymore. But in this moment, rereading it recently, it did feel kind of odd. However, it is still such an enjoyable series that I really can overlook that. It's just kind of an observation that I had. But overall, it's been great. I've been reading these on my Kindle. And the reason I'm reading on my Kindle is because I don't have the desire to buy a new device. I'm just not going to really buy any more books on Kindle. I had said that a few weeks ago, and I have bought a few since because I figured out there was another way to download them off. But after that, now that I finished up a certain set of collections that I wanted to finish off, I'm definitely not going to buy any more Kindle books, for the foreseeable future, just because I don't want to support things that aren't good for me, right? Like, I'm not the type of person that cares about like, you know, green initiatives or anything like that. That doesn't matter to me all that much. But if you're a company that's doing bad service, if you're a company that's making it worse for customers, I care, right? And so Kendall specifically is doing bad things for its customers, and so that's why I'm boycotting buying things from Kendall. But I'm still using Amazon because Amazon is the best service for buying things and getting it to your house quickly, right? Walmart is nearly as good, but it doesn't have as much variety. So that's why I don't use it all that much compared to Amazon. But you know, Walmart is probably just as bad socially as Amazon is, so it really doesn't make too much of a difference. But that's really all there is for the books. In terms of comic books, I haven't read too many, but I have read, you know, 3 or 4 different issues, so I'll show them to you now. So here we have Transformers, sorry for the glare there, number 18. I got this, even though this is not the issue that I bought from my local comic book store. I got this at a comic book store down in Houston. It's called Bedrock City Comics, I think. And the reason I got it is because I love this Daniel Warren Johnson cover for this character. This is the second appearance of the character, so this is technically not a key issue, but it is the first time that this character appears in a cover, obviously. And I really like this cover, so I picked it up. Then I got this Marvel must-haves. This is free at your local stores. And this was not good. This has Captain America number 1, Spider-Man Reign 2 number 1, and Phoenix number 1. And I didn't enjoy any of these. Phoenix was probably the best one because the artwork was the most satisfying to me. But if I remember correctly, that's the one with Greg Land, where he like seriously copies other artists, and that's not great, but it is what it is. Phoenix was probably the best one, but it wasn't that enjoyable, to be honest with you. So this was mostly a bust, which is disappointing. Then I read Heatseeker number 3. Number 3. This is pretty fun. I enjoy this story, and I enjoy reading about Heatseeker and all of the hard case crime stuff that Titan publishes, but this is definitely not as good as the original series. So we'll see how it goes. And then we have Justice League Unlimited number 4. This is really fun. I really enjoy this. In this one, they fight against this weird fire group with the green, and it was pretty awesome. They use Aquaman and his connection to water to basically create a conduit for the green to exist in this fire-based reality, and it's pretty interesting. I quite liked it. But it was a bit confusing, and it's also kind of annoying to me to focus on Aquaman when his personal series that's happening at the same time as this has him like traversing realities. Like, how is he here and also in a different reality fighting against the green somewhere else, right? Like, it doesn't make sense, which annoys me, but it's not that big a deal. It's, you know, broadly speaking, whatever. And in terms of manga, I've only read one, so that's Blue Lock number 17. I bought this month, and this series is awesome. I freaking love it. I think it's so good. This is nearly the end of the U20 arc. After this is the Neo-Egoist saga, if I remember correctly. And this has been really fun. I really enjoyed this. My favorite bit here is when Itoshi Rin just goes crazy, and he goes like Joker mode, and it's really ridiculous because it's so stupid looking, but it's just really fun. This is basically the same stuff that the last episodes of the anime covered, and it's pretty enjoyable. There's really not much to say though. Like, they win basically, and most people that have watched the anime knew this already, and there's this really awesome kind of spread here that I really like. So yeah, Blue Lock number 17. I can't wait for number 18. That should come out in a few weeks, so I'm excited about that. But that's everything that I've been reading and watching this month, and a little bit of an update as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you've been reading down below, and see you guys next time.